they treated me very well. I received a French education while I was there, plus they tried to convert me to their religion, which I did not want to do. Meanwhile, being there, we heard that the French resistance, the underground, was near there. So one day in 1942, when I was 11 and a half, I decided I had enough of the orphanage. I ran away and I went to the camp. I told them that I was Jewish and I would do anything possible to help them out, and please take me with you. And he looked at me all over, and then he saw that one of my shoes was a little higher than the other, because one leg is about an inch shorter than the other. So he called the head of the underground, called a shoemaker in, who was also a member of the underground, and he said, "Can you do anything for him?" He looked at my shoe, he said, "Yeah, we can do something." So he took my shoe, he made a hole inside where it was elevated, and with cork, he was able to fill it up and make it look like there was nothing there. And there, the underground people would put coded messages in there, and I would be the messenger to go from one camp to another. And a few times I got stopped by the Wehrmacht and asked where I was going. So I said, I'm either going to school or wherever. And being handicapped, they never suspected me to be a spy. So I was lucky, I was never stopped. So I did that from that time on till the liberation time, which was D-Day 1944. And from the time of D-Day till they got to Rouen, took about 2 months. And then from there, after the Americans liberated that area of France and moved on to Paris, and then the rest of France, one of the resistance members knew that there was an organization called HIAS, which is the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society. So they got in contact with them, and the HIAS took me and put me into a displaced person camp. I was there from September of 1944 till January of 1947, when I came to the States to live with my parents. And meanwhile, my grandmother was able to go from where we were over to Morocco, and from Morocco she was able to come to the United States in 1941. Okay? And when I got to the States, there was another problem. I didn't know how to speak English, and I forgot German completely, so the communication between my parents and I was pretty difficult. But luckily, one of her cousins knew French, so between talking with him, I was able to converse with my parents. In March of that 1947, I went to the hospital in Brooklyn to have a correction done on my left foot. I stayed in the hospital from March till August of that year, and everything was okay. It was repaired, and I was able to walk much better with less weight on the shoe, and be a little more normal than the way I was. And in September 1947, I entered high school and graduated high school in June of 1950. In September of 1950, I entered City College of New York, the business school, because I wanted to become an accountant. But there was a problem. When I got into the accounting class, the teacher refused to take me because of the physical handicap of my hands. He said, you would not be able to write the numbers and all this. I tried to prove it to him that I would be able to, but his mind was set up, so every course that I took for either accounting or business, all the professors refused me. So after 2 years of college, I gave up college and I went to work. I worked for a manufacturer of castanets who did export to South America. There I became a bookkeeper. I did the payroll, the accounts payable, and accounts receivable. While working there, I applied for a position to work for the city government. I took the test and passed it, and in the beginning of 1955, I was interviewed by 3 departments: the finance department, the sanitation department, and the chief medical examiner's office. The first 2 rejected, did not reject me completely. The finance department said, you're going to have to go climb up a ladder and get the books and then come down and do this kind of work. I said, well, that's not for me. I can't do this. I don't want to get into an accident, and I don't want to drop any books. So it's okay. I still had my other job, so it was no. The sanitation department called me a few months later, and the same thing. It was to do more labor than clerical work, because that's what I was looking for. And so I refused that. In the chief medical examiner's office, the job was pretty easy. It was to take phone calls and enter all information pertaining to whatever it is. The chief medical examiner did not want it because he said, you cannot hold the phone and write at the same time. I made friends with some people, and one of the friends that I had, his father was a CPA. So he was able to, one of his clients was a lawyer, and he explained to him what the situation was. And the lawyer said, we have a case, we can bring it up to court, and the city will have to hire you, one way or the other. And this went on for about 4 or 5 months. In October of 1955, the chief medical examiner decided that he didn't want to go through court. He said, we'll take it, we'll hire him. And I worked for them from that day till 1989. And in 1956, I met a young lady, courted her, and in 1959, we got married. In 1963, my son was born, and he has 3 children now. And in 1989, he was commissioned to be a officer in the U.S. Marine Corps. So the Marine Corps invited my wife and I for the ceremony at the World Trade Building. In 1990, my wife and I went to live in Florida, Boca Raton, and we lived there till about 2007 when she passed away from